The dragon insisted they were lost, which would have been more convincing if it hadn't been insisting that for the last 3 days. "We are not lost," the rider said, leaning forward against the cold current of space as if posture alone could restore his authority. "We are strategically misplaced." The dragon exhaled a slow stream of smoke that curled uselessly into the vacuum, a habit it refused to abandon despite the lack of atmosphere. "You said that near the broken ring of Talos. You said that near the drifting war cathedral. You even said that when we flew directly into a customs beacon." "That beacon was badly positioned," the rider muttered. "Anyone could have hit it." "You saluted it." "I panicked." The dragon rumbled in a way that suggested deep disappointment in the evolution of humanity. They drifted through the graveyard of a forgotten fleet, metal hulks spinning slowly, their surfaces scarred by weapons that no longer had names. The rider scanned the debris field with a flickering console strapped to his arm. Most of it was dead, ships, signals, history, but then something blinked. "There," he said, straightening. "Life signal." The dragon's wings tightened slightly. "Trap. Everything is a trap to you. Because everything tries to kill us." "That's not entirely true," the rider said. "Some things just try to arrest us." The signal pulsed again, faint but stubborn, against better judgment, and against the dragon's increasingly colorful protests. They angled downward through the wreckage. Twisted beams scraped against the dragon's scales, sending small vibrations along its spine. "If I die because you followed a blinking light," the dragon said, "I will haunt you." "That's not how death works." "It will for me." They found her suspended between 2 shattered hulls, as if the wreckage itself had decided to hold her in place. She did not look like something that belonged here. Her form was intact, untouched by the violence around her dark hair drifting like ink in water. Her face was human enough to unsettle, but the long, elegant curve of her ears broke the illusion, arching slightly upward in a way that suggested design rather than accident. The rider slowed the dragon with a quiet command. "She's alive." "Barely," the dragon said, "which is the safest kind of alive." He maneuvered closer, reaching out with a gloved hand. The moment his fingers brushed hers, her eyes opened. They were not the eyes of someone waking. They were the eyes of someone who had been waiting. She inhaled once, sharply, and the surrounding debris trembled, not violently, but just enough to make the rider pull his hand back. "You took your time," she said, her voice steady, almost bored. The rider blinked. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a schedule." She studied him, her gaze moving from his face to the dragon beneath him. The dragon met her stare without blinking, a low growl building in its throat. "You are inefficient," she said. "That's the nicest thing anyone's said to me this week," the rider replied. Her eyes shifted to the dragon again. "And this one smells like combustion and poor decisions." The dragon's growl deepened. "I don't like her." "Give it a minute," the rider said. "You don't like anyone." "I tolerate you." "That's practically love." The woman moved slightly, and the metal around her groaned as if reluctant to let her go. The rider reached out again, more carefully this time. "Can you move?" he asked. She tilted her head, considering the question as if it were unnecessarily simple. Then, without effort, she stepped free of the wreckage, the fragments drifting aside to make space for her. "I can," she said. The dragon shifted beneath the rider. "We should leave." "We are leaving," the rider said, "with her." "No." "Yes." "No." "She insulted you and survived," the rider said. "That alone makes her interesting." The woman looked between them, her long ears catching a faint glimmer of distant starlight. "You argue frequently," she observed. "It's how we bond," the rider said. "It's how I suffer," the dragon corrected. She stepped onto the dragon's back without asking permission. The dragon froze, the rider froze. For a moment, the entire wreckage field seemed to hold its breath. Then the dragon spoke, very slowly. "If she breathes wrong, I will incinerate everything." "She already breathes wrong," the rider said quietly. The woman settled behind him, her presence calm, almost weightless. "Take me somewhere safe," she said. The rider glanced back at her. "Define safe." She paused, then gave a faint, almost amused smile. "Somewhere nothing important can be destroyed." The dragon spread its wings. "That eliminates most of the galaxy." The dragon refused to take off for a full minute, which in space felt like a dramatic protest rather than a delay. "I am reconsidering my life choices," it said. "You say that every time we pick up someone unusual," the rider replied, adjusting the cracked console on his wrist. "Which is every time." This one stepped onto my back without permission. She stepped out of a collapsing wreck like gravity owed her money. I don't think permission is part of her vocabulary. Behind them, the woman sat in complete stillness, as if motion itself were optional. The rider glanced over his shoulder. "So, do you have a name?" he asked. She looked at him as though the concept required evaluation. "I have many." "Great, give me one that won't break my tongue." A brief pause. "You may call me Elira." The dragon snorted. "That sounds expensive." "I will try not to charge you," Elira said calmly. The rider smiled despite himself. "See, she has a sense of humor." "She has a sense of threat," the dragon corrected. Finally, with a heavy exhale, the dragon spread its wings and pushed forward. The stars bent slightly as they accelerated, slipping into a narrow current between trade routes and patrol zones. The rider guided them instinctively, weaving through invisible boundaries that only smugglers and fools memorized. Elira leaned slightly, watching the stars stretch and narrow. "You travel without clearance." "We travel without permission," the rider said. "Clearance sounds more official. You are aware that multiple systems would detain you on sight." "Detain is a polite word for shoot," the dragon added. Elira considered that. "I see." Silence settled for a moment, broken only by the low hum of the dragon's movement through vacuum. Then the rider's console flickered violently. "That's new," he muttered, tapping it. The display scrambled, then stabilized, showing a cluster of patrol signals ahead, far too many, far too organized. The dragon growled. "I told you, trap." "We didn't even do anything yet," the rider protested. "You exist. That is enough." Elira leaned forward slightly. "They are not here for you." The rider frowned. "That's reassuring and concerning at the same time." "They are searching," she said, her voice quieter now, "for a disruption." The dragon's wings adjusted subtly. "Define disruption." Elira did not answer immediately. Instead, she raised her hand, almost lazily, and focused on the distant cluster of signals. The rider felt it before he understood it. A shift. Not in space, not in time, but in something less cooperative than either. The console blinked once, then half the signals vanished. Not moved, not hidden, gone. The rider stared at the display. Did they just leave? The dragon's voice dropped. "No." Elira lowered her hand. "I miscalculated." "That's your version of miscalculating." The rider said, "Remind me never to let you calculate anything important." "I was attempting subtlety," she replied. The dragon let out a slow, uneasy breath. "You erased them." Elira tilted her head slightly. "Not entirely." "That is not comforting." The remaining patrol ships scattered, their formation breaking instantly as if some unseen instinct had screamed at them to run. The rider let out a nervous laugh. "Well, that solves the problem." The dragon did not laugh. "No, that creates a larger one." Elira watched the fleeing signals with mild curiosity. "They will return with more." "Of course they will," the rider said. "Why wouldn't they? Everyone loves a sequel." He rubbed his face, then. Elira did not finish her sentence because the stars ahead of them folded. Not metaphorically, not artistically. Folded, like something large had decided the shape of reality was inconvenient and pressed it flat. The dragon stopped mid-flight. "I refuse," it said. "You refuse what?" the rider asked. "Whatever this is." The console screamed with signals, fleets, dozens of them, layered across each other in tight formation. Not hunting anymore. Surrounding, the rider exhaled slowly. "Okay, that's new. Usually people chase us. This feels personal." Elira stood, balanced effortlessly on the dragon's back. They adapted quickly, by bringing an entire civilization with them. The rider said, "That feels excessive." The dragon's voice dropped. "They are not aiming at us." The rider followed its gaze. Every weapon, every targeting line, every silent calculation pointed past him. At Elira, he looked back at her. "You've had worse first impressions, right?" She did not answer. For the first time, she looked still, not calm, not curious. Still, like something vast inside her had stopped pretending to be small. "They will not stop," she said. "People usually don't when they bring that many guns," the rider replied. "But we can run. We're very good at running. It's basically our specialty." The dragon nodded once. "Our only specialty." Elira's long ears shifted slightly, catching a signal only she seemed to hear. "If we run, they will follow. If they follow, they will spread. If they spread." "Let me guess," the rider said. "Everything gets worse." She looked at him. "Everything ends." The rider was quiet for a moment, then he scratched the back of his neck. Right, no pressure. The fleets began to move, not firing, not yet, just closing in like a decision being made. The dragon tensed. Say the word. We leave. The rider didn't answer immediately. He looked at the console, at the impossible number of signals, then back at Elira. You said they're not here for me, he said. They are not. But they will destroy everything to get to you. Yes. He let out a slow breath. That's impressively inconvenient. Elira watched him carefully. You should go. The dragon blinked. I agree with her. The rider ignored it. If we go, they chase. If they chase, more people get dragged into this. Yes. And if you stay. Elira did not hesitate. They stopped chasing. The rider nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. Then he smiled slightly. You know, he said, this is the part where a smarter person would run. You are not a smarter person, the dragon said. Not even close. He turned fully toward Elira. You asked for somewhere safe. She said nothing. He shrugged. Turns out that place doesn't exist, so we'll have to improvise. The fleets locked targets. The first weapons began to charge. The dragon growled. This is a terrible plan. I didn't say it was a good one. Elira's voice softened just slightly. You do not understand what I am. The rider met her gaze. I understand enough. And that is, he grinned, despite everything. You're someone who insults dragons and deletes fleets when she's distracted. I've worked with worse. For a brief moment, something in her expression shifted. Then the first shot fired. It never reached them. Elira moved. There was no light, no explosion, no sound, just absence. The beam disappeared, then the ship that fired it, then the formation behind it. Space did not react. It simply accepted the correction. The rider stared. That's still unsettling. The dragon did not speak. The fleets panicked. Signals scattered, commands overlapped, entire lines broke formation. Elira stepped forward, her presence expanding, not physically but undeniably. The stars themselves seemed to dim around her. They chose this, she said quietly. The rider rubbed his temple. I feel like they're going to regret that. They will not feel regret. She raised her hand. The rider hesitated. Then, gently, he reached out and touched her wrist. She stopped. For the first time, truly stopped. That's enough, he said. The remaining fleets held position, trembling at the edge of existence. Elira looked at him. They will come again. Probably, he said, but maybe next time they'll think first. They do not think. Then we'll give them a reason to learn. The dragon finally spoke, very carefully. You are telling her not to erase them. Yes. Why? The rider shrugged. Because if she keeps solving problems like that, eventually there won't be anyone left to argue with me. A small pause. Then unexpectedly Elira smiled, not amused, not distant, real. Very well, she said, her hand lowered. The fleets, what remained of them, retreated instantly, no formation, no pride, just survival. Silence returned, the rider let out a long breath. See, problem solved. The dragon stared at him. You negotiated with a force that deletes civilizations. I asked nicely. That should not have worked. Elira stepped back, her presence settling, the impossible weight of her fading into something almost human again. You changed the outcome, she said. The rider shrugged. I suggested a different one. She studied him for a long moment. You are inefficient. He smiled. You keep saying that. And yet, she added softly, you are effective. The dragon huffed. I still don't like her. You tolerate me, Elira said. That is not love. The rider laughed, tension finally breaking. Give it time. Ahead of them, the stars stretched open again, uncertain, dangerous, and wide. Elira looked into the distance. Where will you take me now? The rider adjusted his grip, a familiar spark returning to his voice. Somewhere safe. The dragon groaned. We are going to die. Eventually, the rider said, but not today. Elira's long ears caught the faint hum of distant systems, untouched, waiting. This time, when she smiled, it was not because she could destroy them. It was because, for the first time in a very long while, she chose not to. They did not notice the silence at first. The rider was busy arguing with the dragon about whether drifting through an unregistered star corridor counted as navigation or guessing with confidence. And Elira was watching the stars with a focus that felt quieter than before, less like control and more like listening. Then the console stopped flickering. No signals, no distant chatter, no patrol echoes lurking just outside detection range. The rider tapped it. That's suspicious. It is broken, the dragon said hopefully. It's never broken when we need it to be. Elira tilted her head slightly. They have withdrawn. All of them, the writer asked. Yes. The dragon narrowed its eyes at the empty expanse. I do not trust all of them. It sounds temporary. Everything is temporary, the writer said, except your complaints. They are permanent. Elira stepped forward, her long ears catching the faintest ripple of something far away. They will not pursue again. The writer glanced back at her. You sound sure. I am. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, I'll take that as a win. The dragon shifted beneath them. We survived, that is also a win. See, the writer said. We're improving, we used to survive by running. Now we survive by talking. You talked, the dragon corrected. She nearly erased a civilization. Details. They drifted into a quiet system, one too small to matter, its lone star dim and steady. No fleets, no signals. Just space that didn't care who they were. The writer leaned back slightly. This feels new. Suspiciously peaceful, the dragon said. Elira stepped down from the dragon's back onto a fragment of rock drifting nearby. It adjusted under her feet as if it had always intended to hold her. The writer watched her. You could stay here. She looked at the small star, then at him. I could stay anywhere. Right, he said. Poor choice of words. The dragon lowered its head slightly. If you stay with us, they may return. They will, Elira said. The writer shrugged. Then we deal with it. You cannot always intervene, she said. No, he admitted. But you can choose not to erase everything. Elira was quiet. The writer continued, softer now. You said they don't think, maybe they don't, but you do. The dragon glanced between them. This is the part where something important happens, isn't it? I think so, the writer said. Try not to ruin it. I ruin nothing, I enhance dramatically. Elira's gaze returned to the stars. For a long time, I removed threats before they could grow. Efficient, the writer said. Yes. He smiled faintly, and lonely. She did not answer immediately. Then quietly, yes. The dragon shifted uncomfortably. I do not like this conversation. No one asked you, the writer said. Elira stepped back onto the dragon's back, her movement lighter than before. I will stay. The writer blinked, just like that. You argue poorly, she said. But you are persistent. I've been called worse. You will continue to be. The dragon sighed. We are adopting a cosmic entity. We are not adopting, the writer said. We are temporarily traveling together. Indefinitely, Elira added. That sounds like adopting. The writer laughed, shaking his head. All right, new rule. The dragon groaned. I dislike rules. Too bad. Rule 1. No erasing civilizations unless absolutely necessary. Elira considered that. Define necessary. We'll workshop it. Unacceptable. Progress, the dragon muttered. The writer looked ahead, guiding them gently toward the dim star. Rule 2. If we get into trouble, we try talking first. The dragon snorted. That will fail. It worked once. It nearly failed catastrophically. Elira's voice was calm. I will try. The writer smiled. That's all I'm asking. For a while, they moved in silence, not empty, but settled. The writer adjusted the course without overthinking it. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't just avoiding danger. He was choosing a direction. The dragon noticed. You are not guessing. Don't ruin it, the writer said. You have improved. I had good motivation. Elira watched him, her expression unreadable but softer than before. Far behind them, in systems that no longer dared to follow, the memory of her power lingered like a warning written into reality itself. Ahead of them, nothing waited. No war, no pursuit, no inevitable destruction, just space. Uncertain, vast, unfinished, the writer exhaled slowly. You know, this might actually work. The dragon made a low sound. That is the most dangerous sentence you have ever spoken. Elira's lips curved slightly. Then we will proceed carefully. Carefully, the writer repeated. That's new for us. It is efficient, she said. He laughed quietly. You're learning. And you are changing, she replied. He glanced back at her. Yeah. The dragon stretched its wings, catching a current that didn't exist but felt right anyway. They moved forward together, not as something balanced or safe, but as something chosen. And for once, that was enough.